Hi, this is Professor Bauer. Welcome to Project Contracts and Procurement, ICT 4105, Summer Quarter 2020. I'll be your instructor for this course. Welcome to an introduction, a bit of a summary of the syllabus, some important things. We'll spend about 10 minutes walking through some of the important details of the class. We'll get ready for the beginning week next week. Normally the roadmap videos we do each week will be about 5 to 7 minutes. This may take a few more minutes just to help you get oriented and set up for success in the class. We'll look at a brief overview of the class, calendar, and kind of walk through when things happen and why. A little bit of information about the syllabus, certainly not a substitute for actually looking at it yourself. Some keys to success. This will be the 5th time that I've taught ICT 4105, and most of my students have done excellently, and I'm proud of them, and I want you to do the same. If you follow my secret guide, which is not so secret, you do well as well. We'll talk a little bit about an online class if you're new to the ICT program here at DU, why it's a little different, why it respects your independence, and also counts on your initiative, and we'll talk about that. A little bit about the class participation grade, how you can get in touch with me and how often, what are your expectations for me, and what are my expectations for you. I find if we communicate those clearly on the front end, everybody's happy. And so let's get started and talk a little bit about your instructor for this class. I serve as an adjunct instructor at DU. I manage an IT consulting business on training and certification programs. I've worked on many of those both in the federal government, the Department of Defense, and the private sector. Prior to that, I managed the technical programs and operations for the Open Networking Foundation and for the Storage Networking Industry Association, two trade associations that work to advance a particular technology into the marketplace. I also work as Director of Research and Development for the CompTIA organization, the worldwide leader in IT certifications, primarily on the front end and basic area, but increasingly more and more complex for mid and later career individuals. I've served as a CIO, executive director, CEO for a number of organizations, so have a fair amount of experience. I've made a lot of mistakes in all of those areas, so hopefully you can benefit from the ones I've made and make your own mistakes, okay? All right. And more information about me on LinkedIn, and I enjoy watching my students succeed, so please link in with me if you care to. No sales, no multi-market vitamins, nothing like that. Just I'd like to see all of you succeed. I have advanced degrees and the bills to show for them at Harvard, the Wharton Business School, the University of Pennsylvania Computer Science Department, and the University of Florida. I live in Black Forest, Colorado, to the south of Denver, and like that just fine. We'll look at an overview of the class now. The course is designed to provide students with leadership and practical skills in contracts and procurement. It is amazing how much people talk about contracts, but never really dive deep into them. Maybe they're afraid of them, maybe they've seen too many Netflix movies about contracts and those sorts of things. But contracts and procurement really are the lifeblood of the organization. It's a shortcut to the corner office. If you become the person in your organization or in your group who really takes an interest in these things and follows them and knows how to read them, you'll be a valuable part of the organization. You'll gain knowledge about the elements of a contract, the procurement process, the various procurement plans. You'll learn what the various RFXs, request for, RFPs, RFQs, etc., and other statements of work and various documents that circulate around a project. Very important. So you learn these areas: negotiating skills, supplier selection, RFPs on various things. You'll help write them, and it'll be good practical experience. The objectives of the course are the following: to analyze the role of procurement in an organization, to look at procurement tools and processes from the statement of work to the request for proposal and various contracts. We'll also look at how procurement is implemented inside a project and the various components of that procurement process and how stakeholders have a role along the way. We'll look at negotiating tools, strategies, techniques for the procurement process. What you may have heard about negotiation being a win-win or a win-lose. We'll take a look at various approaches to the negotiation process. We'll look at what's changing in the procurement field. Think about the coronavirus 19 pandemic. How has that affected our supply chain in just things like face masks and other kinds of disposable areas that may have been outsourced in a very long global chain, and yet in the middle of an emergency, to what extent can the supplier really be in charge and put pressure on the organization? So we'll look at sustainability, we'll look at security in the process, we'll also look at the ways that agile, and by agile I don't mean an adjective describing everything of the organization, but really multiple pathways that are ongoing at the same time, as opposed to a waterfall step-by-step iterative process. How agile is influencing procurement. Let's look at our calendar. And just to let you know, anytime there may be a change or an extension or a modification or an upcoming holiday or whatever, I will send you an email. So make sure you're checking your DU email on a regular basis. It has been my experience since I've taught in several summer quarters. I think time goes faster. Maybe it's because the weather's better, the barbecue is hot, and the beach is probably nearby, family and individual vacations. All these things take place, and hopefully we're getting back to something that looks like normal in our lives with the virus and our ability to address it. But time does go fast, and 10 weeks is a fast quarter in any conception of the timing here. So keep an eye on things. Don't let things surprise you. Each Monday, you'll get a roadmap of what's going on this week. What's important? What do you need to pay attention to? You don't want to. You get behind a couple weeks, it's easy to start freaking out. So make sure you stay on top of things. My late father used to say, bad news does not improve with age. And I, as a manager, someone's had a problem for a couple of months and I don't know about it. And I run out of what could be a good solution. I've had students that all of a sudden, at the very beginning of the term, have a requirement by their company dropped on them that means significant amounts of work. Let's talk. In some ways, in particular, a health emergency in a family that I've been able to work with students on, you may need to adjust your schedule. But sometimes I can adjust mine. Doesn't mean that the deliverables aren't deliverables. It doesn't mean that you can ignore them and not be penalized. But it does mean if you let me know there's some difficulties afoot, I'll try my very best to work with you. You can talk to any of my students, those who've worked with me in those kinds of contexts, letting me know what's going on, and we work together. We're normally able to sort things out. We'll also just keep in mind of the calendar, because we'll be in week 10 before you realize it, and some bigger deliverables are in the schedule and in the assignments toward the end of the term. So you don't want to be spending those vital weeks playing catch up. Syllabus information, here it is as the link. You'll find information. Keep in mind that modules are collections of assignments. If you want to know every single thing you need to do each week, walk through the assignments. Rarely do you have but one thing to do. You'll have a couple of things in one area, something else here, a group project or something like that. So keep in mind where those are. The syllabus gives you details about the class participation requirement. Maybe you've had courses which required a course participation requirement. Make sure you read this. This is probably the one area where students get tripped up because they didn't read clearly what the expectations were. They vary from class to class, of course. And so they thought, well, I needed to make one online comment a week in the last course, so that's the case here. Well, no, it's not. And so read the syllabus. It's this video is certainly not a substitute. Okay, keys to success. What's it going to take to get that A? What's it going to take to be successful? What's it going to take to be able to sit in a discussion on contracting, on procurement in your organization, and not just mumble, oh yeah, RFP, request for products, but really understand. I tell you what, all you have to do is get some of these things down, understand them, and you'll be the go-to person in your organization or on your team. Each week, we'll have the discussion questions. They'll be posted by 7 a.m. on Monday, and they normally end on Sunday evening. In a rare case, problems, difficulties, pandemics, things like that, I'll extend the discussion. Or if it's really worth it and we're talking about something that's key, well, we'll keep it going. I'll monitor and drop in on the discussion, may advance a comment, will encourage you if you're on the right track, will ask a question that might illustrate another thing to consider. Having done this a few times, I find that a really good back and forth is what makes the discussions engaging. My insight is not perfect. My mistakes have been many, and I hope I'm humble enough to learn from you. And just keep those things in mind. You do the assignments every week. You turn them in. In anything online, your communications with your fellow students, working together with a team, working on the discussion. I think we all know our grown-up discussion voice, and we're not going to treat each other in a way that we wouldn't like to be treated there. So very important. We're not keeping up with the Kardashians or anyone else. So just keep it civil. So participate in the discussions, and the one thing I want you to see is in every assignment there's a rubric. There's a table at the end of the assignment that describes how do you get the perfect grade. What's an acceptable grade? What's a grade that just gets by? What's a grade that really fails to meet the minimum requirements? We don't want anyone to be surprised if they do work and get a lousy grade. If they don't pay attention to something like formatting or proofing, or if it's combining a number of things, those sorts of things that everyone says, it doesn't matter. Believe me, turn in sloppy work to your boss and you'll find out in the long run it does matter, in most of the time. So anyway, I've mentioned how important this information and this subject is in your business. Projects are the lifeblood of most companies. Funding them, getting the materials, getting the schedule, procuring, partnerships, supply chains, these are all vital to your company's success. Learn it and you will be successful. Finally, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, we will have a volunteer Zoom room. my version of office hours. You want to talk about something, if there's something in the assignment that you're not clear on, you can ask questions. It is not mandatory. We try to keep it an hour. If it's longer, we'll go over that time. But if you don't show, I'll hang around for 15, 20 minutes, but figure out that no one needs it tonight. But for those students who have made it a habit to drop in occasionally, I think you will find that they're more prepared. They're not surprised. We will actually show examples of what the assignment will look like, so it'll help you to do your very best there. So Wednesday, 6 p.m. Every week. Of course, not the first week, but the first full week of class, we'll have that 6 p.m. Zoom room. You'll get an invitation in your email. Okay, an online class is different, as you probably know if you've taken them here, but if you're new to the program, this is really a sense of you're working independently. I'm your coach on the sideline, helping you to execute the plays, as it were, but it really is your game. It really is your projects, your work. I'm here to guide you, give feedback. At times during the exercise, let you know how you're doing, so that at the end of the game, you are successful and it's no surprise and you've done well. So that being the case, there's no class time per se. There'll be videos occasionally, there'll be information. You depend on your access to the website, the syllabus, the assignments, posting, all those sorts of things. If you have trouble in those areas, I'll put out an email on how to get tech support through DU. Folks are pretty responsive. They want to make sure that you can have access to this information. You've got to own the deliverables, period. There's no way that I'm going to walk you by the hand, and that's good. You can work. You want to work all day and get it knocked out for the week, that's great. I found that the more you jump on things on Monday and Tuesday, the less terrifying things are on Saturday and Sunday afternoon. It just makes your weekend a little bit easier. Not everybody has that work schedule, but keep that in mind. Keep in mind class participation. That's really making comments and making sure they're insightful comments and not just, yeah, that's cool, or yeah, I really like that, or something that gets you involved, something that shares something of your insights and your perspective. Make sure you understand how to receive maximum credit there, and don't just jump in, make a comment, and then leave. But be a part of things. You can tell, and I can tell, if it's just something you fill out Sunday night to get it under the bar, or if you're really engaging and reading each other's material. I'll post summaries. I'll post other information on an article or discussion, perhaps afterwards, if you want to do any further reading on this area. All right. Coming to the end of our little introduction, my contact information. I prefer email, just gives me a record of when you called and make sure that I can get back to you. My mobile number is there. Please don't spam me. I won't spam you. I mentioned the Zoom room on Wednesdays. I don't go to campus all that often. So if you, for some reason, want to meet with me privately, we'll set up a Zoom or a Teams meeting, no problem. All right, expectations. I won't read them all to you, but I'll highlight them. I expect you to adhere to the honor code. Don't cheat. It's too easy to get caught with the technologies, Turnitin, all these other sorts of things that we have. Communication. I mentioned earlier, bad news doesn't improve with age. Communicate with me and things will be so much better. Course preparation, being engaged in the course, professional courtesy. Just treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. The golden rule. And then if you need resources, we've got plenty of them. And as a student here at DU, you have access to technology, software, lots of other things, and take advantage of that. Your tuition dollars help to pay for that. Get your money's worth. Expectations from me. Here's what you can expect. I will try to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours if you send me an email. If I'm out of town or overseas, which is happening a whole lot less these days, I'll give you a heads up if I expect to run into any comms difficulties. I will be engaged in this course. I don't just check in on you. I will be engaged in it. I will return all of your assignments within 7 to 10 days. I also will uphold style and formatting expectations. I want your words spelled right. I want you to learn how to communicate clearly. I want you to be able to write well. If you don't learn these skills, you will fail in the business world unless you own the company. So please don't neglect this part of your professional skill set. I'll also try to make, I don't really need to try to make this relevant. It is relevant, particularly in our current day. I don't do politics. I don't do drama. You certainly, if you want politics, you can turn on anything right now, and there's fighting and arguing and who to vote for. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. What I may do from time to time is illustrate how the coronavirus pandemic has affected our supply chain. I think many of you have companies that have had to make different plans because of supply chain difficulties. What could be received in 48 hours is now 96, etc. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. That's it. We'll be getting started formally in the class next week. I really hope you jump in, look things over. We're going to have a great time together, learn a lot, have fun, get some insights, and I guarantee this will be helpful for you and for your career. Thanks.